Is it time to reveal your real magic and become seen, known, and valued? Hello and welcome to this week's Visionary Voices Deep Dive Live. It's lovely to be here with you. Today we are talking about the 4 levels of visibility blocks. And if we haven't met before, if you're new here, lovely to meet you. I'm Rionach and I am a deep dive transformational coach and visibility mentor for visionary leaders to really help you clear those fears and the frozen parts so you can get out there and share your gifts and make your difference in the world. So, and if you're here watching us live or watching the recording, any moment in time, I invite you just to say hello, type hello in the comments or type replay if you're watching the replay. But it's really lovely to connect with you in this space, wherever you are watching this. And so this topic of the 4 levels of visibility blocks is something that I've been exploring for years because I really struggled all my life with visibility. I was incredibly shy, never wanted to stand in front of a group if I had to. And also, you know, when I set up my business and also my professional career, there was such resistance to stepping forward to share my wisdom. And the closer I came to my soul's path and sharing what was really meaningful for me, the scarier it became. So if that's you, if you're somebody who's got this really big pull and this whispering voice that you're here to help others to make a difference, but and the world would be such a better place if more people know what you know or could clear what you have cleared, but you feel yourself hitting a brick wall or having this push-pull when you go to put yourself out there. And why is it so hard? And that's something that I really ask myself. And for a long time, I thought it's just me. And then I realized, oh, there's lots of other people like me. And as I explored what was in the way and, clearing this is what I've discovered is these 4 levels of visibility blocks, that it really helps when, you work on all levels as they come up. And so I really also want you to feel that you're not alone. This is normal. This stuff is deep. It's very old. It's bigger than you. There's nothing wrong with you. And it is possible to shift these or to know how to navigate them without beating yourself up all the time. So that's my intention for you. So do share with me in the chat, what's your experience? What's your experience around putting yourself out there and what comes up for you? What have you already noticed? Because what I've discovered is that visibility blocks, they exist on all these 4 levels, which are the personal, the collective, the ancestral, and the soul level. So that's personal, collective, ancestral, and soul level. They're the 4 levels of visibility blocks that we're going to be talking about today. And many of us, if you're in the field of personal development, as I know many of you are, you may have done deep work on the personal level. I'll go a bit more into that as well. Things that happened in your life experience that you are aware of. And it's really important work to do, really important work to do. And yet we also carry visibility blocks that are older than we are, that are bigger and more collective than just our personal life experience, that have been handed down through generations from your mother's line, your father's line, all your ancestors. The collective level operates in the culture and the history in our society. And, in our current world, that you may have more than one cultural influence. There might be where you grew up, where your parents were from, where you've lived. So And then the deepest level is the soul memory, the soul level, and that's imprints from other existences. So, we don't have to know exactly where these things are coming from, but when we get a glimpse of a story that arises, whether it's a past life or an ancestral, it's just trusting that, working with it. It's what I've discovered, and the difference it makes when you shift it on that level. So it's interesting how invisible visibility blocks can be, and they're scars. They're scars from trauma whose roots have been lost from memory, but their ghost persist inside us. So, for example, one of the things that often comes up in my clients is, we're working on a visibility fear, and they get a picture of being burned at the stake, or having their head chopped off. And and I don't where those stories come from. It could be ancestral, it could be from the soul memory, but what really makes a difference is that when we clear that, they're like, oh, now I can show up. It makes a difference, and that's why it's important, not just the theoretical but the actual practical of this as well. So because this stuff is in your cells, it's in your DNA, it's in your energy field, and when we release it from that level, it really makes a difference. So what can you relate to here? What levels have you already worked on, and what difference did that make to you as well? So I'd love to hear your experience around this. So what I'm going to be doing in this session is exploring the 4 levels of the visibility blocks and how they might be showing up for you, so you can know how to identify them when they surface, when they try and sabotage you showing up. And then just touch on briefly the kind of the deep skills that are needed to successfully navigate each level. So this is something I'm working on. I'm going to be bringing out a resource around this as well. So I'd love to hear your experience as I begin to create even more clarity on this content. So the first level of the visibility blocks is the personal. And so that shows up. This is all the experiences that we've had in this lifetime. So, and these are the events that have had an impact and that still are having an impact on this moment in your life. And so this is the child inside that didn't feel safe. That is protection strategies. You may have experience of, being like social humiliation or public criticism, in front of the classroom, in front of your friends, in front of your family, and this sense of public failure and shaming. You may have had parents or siblings or authority figures that just didn't see you, that silenced you and criticized you. You might have had experiences of rejection, of feeling unseen, feeling unwanted. But these are memories that you can track back to this lifetime. And it's not all from childhood. It could have been, being bullied at work, also as an adult, you could have had experiences of, oof, it's not safe, I'm going to be attacked in the workplace. So it can come along, or stepping out on stage and it all going horribly wrong. But these personal level of visibility blocks is in this memory, this lifetime, and and there's a younger part inside all of us that's wanting protection, that wants to communicate it needs. And so, how to identify that. Hi, Annette, just saying, yes, felt very isolated when I was bullied at work. It was horrible. Yes, exactly. And this is something I know you help people with. So, and this is a personal level experience, being bullied at work and feeling not safe, and that can shut you down. And so when you go to show up to be visible, you've got all of this stuff in the way that's really making it harder than it already is to overcome those blocks. So some of the skills that are needed for this level is knowing how to connect with those tender, vulnerable parts of us. And that might be the inner child. It might go all the way back into the womb. It could be that older self that didn't feel safe, the person, part of you that was at work. So, but these parts of us, we tend to not know what to do with them. So they end up in our unconscious, disconnected from our conscious thinking. And so the skill that's here is, how do I stay in my powerful, loving adult self and connect in with this tender, vulnerable part of me that's kind of going, it's not safe, don't put yourself out there, and listen to that part, hold space for the emotions, the energies that are there, tend it, hold space for, and also, challenge the beliefs that it adopted, because sometimes it's like, oh, it's not safe, I can't ever do that again. And it's a bit like, oh, okay, I see you, I feel you, I'm here with you, you're not alone. And is it really true that because that happened that you can't ever do that again? So that's one of the really deep skills that's needed, is how to connect with that part without disappearing, because these unconscious parts, they have a lot of emotional energy and they can take over and drive the bus. So the skill here is about how to hold both your powerful, loving self and this tender, vulnerable, frozen part that's struggling. And another really powerful skill here, and I use this a lot with my clients, is doing an energy release, to releasing the energy of the people where there was, negative interactions or unhelpful interactions, where you can release all of their projections, the bullying, the criticism, the shaming, the blaming, the control, the manipulation. You can release all of those, their energies from you. You can release any of your neediness or dependency, or whatever entangled you in that situation. You can release your judgments and trauma. You can release your energies from them, transmute them into love, and really come to a much more empowered relationship with that person energetically, even if you don't have a conversation with them again. That's another really powerful skill. And I think I've covered that in some other videos. I'm not going to go deep into this. So just let me know in the comments, how does this show up for you? Where do you see this personal level of visibility block showing up for you? So, where you've had experiences in this life that have been challenging, and that have been, created protection strategies that are no longer helpful. And then that's it. There's nothing wrong with protection strategies. We don't want to judge these parts of ourselves, but it's just like, that's what I needed then. And now I need to, grow beyond that, so I can do, feel free to show up and do what I want to do. So that's the first level. So the second level of visibility blocks is the collective level. And these are the socialized patterns that are also handed down through the generations. So these can show up in cultural patterns, collective patterns. It also comes into collectives such as gender, such as ethnicity, such as, religion, national cultures as well, and also the social norms and the socialization that we receive in our culture. And sometimes this level can be very invisible. It's like the sea that we swim in. I'm a fish swimming in the sea, and I don't even see the water. It can be like that. It's the air that we breathe. We don't even see them. because they're so collective and it just seems like normal. So, but as in the personal development world, I know we do start to see these as well. And you might see something in yourself that you also see. It's like, oh, everyone else seems to have this as well. So some of these patterns might be this feeling of not being good enough, not enough. I've got to, push and prove and overgive and prove my value. That's a very collective level visibility block of not being good enough. And that can also look like the people pleaser, pleasing others, being the good girl or boy or person seeking approval. Another collective block is feeling invisible, these deep pains of not being seen. And there are certainly some collectives in our society that have not been seen. A lot of marginalized communities, whether that's based around gender or ethnicity or religion or social class, where there has been undervaluing and under recognition and skipped over. And so we've learned to internalize that and make it about ourselves as well, and just kind of go, it must be true. So these can be very deep, these collective levels of visibility blocks. And often at the root of these levels, there's a fear of being cut off from the collective, the community, being judged, being exiled, being excommunicated, and this disconnection from others. So this fear of not belonging can keep us in place. I have to prove that I'm good enough, or I won't be liked. I have to, push hard and work hard, or other people will think I'm lazy. I can't, boast about myself. I can't, speak too loudly about myself, or I'll be judged, because the collective says, keep your head down, don't shout out about who you are. I'm afraid of being too much. So these are, very, very deep. They also show up in really obvious ways through, sexism, racism, homophobia, things like this, in, religious judgments. But what often happens is this fear of being attacked by the collective, being criticized, not fitting in, being judged and rejected. So the skills that are needed here is the observer, the observer you, that doesn't over-identify or take this personally. And this observer self can see, oh, this is a collective pattern. It's not just me. Even though it's been a bit invisible, I can really track the collective nature of this pattern and challenge it. And that's seeing it on a higher perspective and not being tangled up in it. And that really helps to give you permission to grow beyond it. So, and the other skill here, when you see it, when you say, oh, this is a collective pattern, then you start to see, when I free myself from this pattern, there might be some people who kind of think, oh, you're not fitting in with everyone else. And there also will be others that kind of go, oh, I'd love to have some of that. I would love to get free from this pattern because I know it's not serving me. And you also then learn to find new communities that are also freeing themselves from this pattern. And you can be a hub for that community when you get free of that. It's like, okay, let me be a stand for, standing up and speaking out instead of, keeping small and staying afraid. And other people will come along kind of, oh, I want some of that. So you start to create new communities based around that as well. Hi, Valdirene went to a talk recently where he says, what if we were taught to work, study, train joyfully instead of hard? Oh, I love that. What difference would that make? That would be so freeing. Yes, absolutely. Why can't it be joyful rather than hard? work, 100%. So this is it. We want to be seeing the collective nature of these patterns. We want to be challenging them, saying, I don't actually have to do that. We want to find new communities of belonging that are aligned with these new ways of showing up. So how does this show up for you? These collective ways of that can both suppress your visibility and, you know, how are you already challenging that as well? Because it might be setting new boundaries in family or community. It might be kind of going, oh, I know I've been showing up inside this old habitual collective pattern, which is what people of my type do, whether it's, you know, as a mother, as a partner, as a parent, as a friend, but, you know, really setting new boundaries and saying, I'm going to challenge those as well. So I'm not saying I think it would make a huge difference. We need to learn to put fun into everything we are doing, and the people we are with. World will be a much better place. Absolutely. So a lot of this conversation about joy and fun and new ways of doing things, that really shifts the collective energy that says, oh, it's got to be hard work and all this pushing and proving. Beautiful. Okay, so the third collective visibility block is the ancestral level. And so this is the cultural heritage, the family lineage patterns that have been handed down through the generations. And often there can be national patterns, or, you know, regional patterns, or even, you know, like Western culture patterns that are there. And at this root, it's about needing to be loyal to our ancestors, to, you know, really locate ourselves. And again, this can be very, very invisible. But unhealed trauma, it totally is passed on, and untold stories. These are the hidden, secret, shameful stories are also passed on energetically. So, and this can have a look. And these can be patterns of you know, having to be silent. They can be patterns of poverty. They can be also heritage patterns of persecution, of slavery or genocide, you know, especially for people from African American communities or Jewish communities. But if you go back far enough, there's persecution roots in most of us. If you've got a background where, like I, with the Irish background, experienced being colonized by another country, and the impact that has on the collective, it's like, oh, you got to keep your head down, you know, there's something wrong. And some of the ways this shows up, I know I've worked with people who have had this sense of, I can't receive support, you know, and that's a common collective pattern. Oh, I'm struggling to receive support. And when we dug in a bit deeper, it actually went down to the ancestral level, and that there was a family, especially the mother's line, for generation after generation of chronically being under supported. And so it was just this reality of, I can't receive support, was a way of being loyal to the ancestral line. And when we recognized that and cleared it from that level, this client was able to get a VA and attract an intern and get support with their social media. And it was just like, oh, it freed up so much energy to receive the support they needed to show up and be visible. And another story of a client who was struggling to make money in their business and had huge fears around visibility and showing up. And we were able to connect with an ancestral pattern where the whole family business had been lost. And because it was a farm, that meant they'd lost their home, they'd lost something that had been in the family for generations. There was this deep, deep trauma of, we're not supported. And if I really go for something that I want, I could lose it all. So the protection is going to keep me there as well. So how does this show up for you? Are there any, you know, family patterns that you see or suspect might be there that has been, you know, keeping some of these old persistent blocks in place. I know for me, I also had the Irish woman, you know, keep your head down, you know, stay in the kitchen, don't speak up, don't be too loud, you know, other people will judge you. And that clearing that, you know, I cleared that through embodying a poem like Phenomenal Woman that really challenged on such deep levels all of those old stories and really helped me to activate the next level. So the skills that are needed here are just like being like a shaman, you know, traveling back into the past, really diving down those ancestral lines to clear the old ancestral energies. And there's a client I've been working with recently, and we're doing ancestral clearing almost every session. It's like, oh, father's line, mother's line, all of these different stuff. And it's really helping her to shift and show up and clear. So that's obviously something that she's working very, very, you know, consciously on, clearing the old ancestral lines. And her guides are saying, yeah, this is what you need to be doing. And she's, you know, so much is opening up for her as she clears these lines. So we don't have to, you know, you work on what comes up, what's alive for you. Yes, Diana, yes, Jewish mother line, poverty, absolutely. Yeah, so there's a lot there, and you can probably, you know, you're already aware that it's there. And, you know, and then it's also knowing that actually you can work on that level, you can clear that level, and it frees up so much. And it's saying, I think there's some family patterns about not being able to manage my finances, and therefore I do not deserve to have money. Oh, I'm feeling that. Annette, yes. Whew. Trust that insight, and know that it's possible to work on that level. Val is saying, I've done a little bit of work on each layer. There's still deeper work to be done in all of them. Absolutely. And I just want to say, Val, we just have to work with what comes up. You know, that's all. We just have to work on what surfaces. We don't have to, you know, make a big shopping list and kind of fix everything. We just kind of go, oh, this is what's coming up. I know I can clear it from that level, or I can get support to clear it from that level and keep going. So yes, there's always more to do, because we're working with all of humanity through our own selves. And as you say, a lot of it's hidden and invisible, but having the awareness that this is there is a great starting point for deeper work when I'm ready. Exactly. This is having this awareness, and then you can be that existential detective and say, oh, which level, you know, what level do I need to work on here? And maybe it's like, I'll do the personal, it comes up again. Why is it coming up again? Oh, it's a collective level. Here it is again. Oh, let's work on the ancestral level. So having this awareness, as you say, is perfect to help when it comes up. So last level of the 4 levels of visibility blocks is the soul level. So this is soul memories, past life trauma imprints, the soul blueprint, the Akashic records. And this can seem very similar to the ancestral line, but sometimes it can be, you know, it's not even something that we can trace. It might be something that we've had a feeling about. It might be that we were born into a family, and you know, there are family patterns there, and then we've got this kind of, you know, strange one. It's like, well, why have I got this? So and it can be, you know, even more invisible and hard to track, but there's a sense that something is there. So, and often, you know, there are like repeating soul patterns, and they can also exist within a family. You've got the ancestral lines, but there also might be karmic relationships. I know I did an energy clearing, you know, with a client last year and it was with a parent, and she had worked with this parent many times before, and we just got the sense that this was an old soul relationship where they had incarnated together many times, and that, you know, they were working out this dynamic together to teach each other, you know, to grow, to learn, to evolve. It's a very loving thing to be in. But when you recognize that and shift it on that level, it was like, oh, you know, then it's like the heavens open. Then it makes sense of why that relationship was so challenging and had so many layers to it. And then you could, you know, she was able to appreciate that parent, appreciate the dance that they've been doing together, and free herself from the unhealthy dynamics that were there, and come into a much more adult to adult relationship and have beautiful, loving relationship, but without being caught up and triggered in that as well. And that can happen with any, you know, relationship. So shifting it on this level. So this is often where the witch wound comes up. You know, people who didn't have any experience of that suddenly have this image of being persecuted or a death imprint. It's like, oh, it's not safe to be visible, because like literally, you know, human history has been a very violent place. So, you know, we've often had soul memories of not surviving for speaking up. A lot of the witches that got persecuted in Scotland, for example, one of the things that they identified, they identified somebody as a witch because she was an argumentative woman. So if you were speaking up and were argumentative, you literally could have been you know, burned or drowned or strangled or whatever they did to witches in that community. So there are many things. You could have been persecuted as a Cathar, who was a Christian who had a different faith. You know, there was the genocide of the Jews. There's a lot on the soul level, and that can come up. And beautifully, you know, when you clear it on this level, when I've done, you know, witch wound clearings, you know, with clients, they've shifted from being unable to show up on video to being like, yeah, I can do Facebook Lives, no problem. Because for me, the proof is in the pudding. Is when we clear this, does it make a difference in how you show up? So, you know, and the skills there for clearing it on the soul level. Again, it's just, you know, setting your intention to clear it from the soul level, you know, however you're working, and also knowing that when you clear it on that level and look for the roots on that level, you know, we you know, we don't just heal those roots of those trauma, we also reclaim the magic that was lost, what we shut down at that time. It's like, okay, I'm not going to go there again. We reclaim the fierceness. We reclaim that ability to speak up. We reclaim that ability to, you know, be fearless and overcome the suppression often that's been put on us there. So how does this show up for you? What can you relate to here? I'd love to know what you are taking away from this. So please share your insights, your ahas, your questions in the comments. And if you would love some support with clearing any of these levels, or have a sense that there's something there that you can't quite reach, I've created a very short one-to-one package called the Visibility Superpowers Experience that can help you clear deep blocks and activate your superpowers. So I will share that with you, and then I will read your comments here. Okay. Valerie, argumentative woman. Ouch. Yes, this is an accusation I've experienced so much in this lifetime. Yeah, I know. And it's like young girls that are outspoken are called bossy, whereas young boys are called assertive. So we need to challenge that collectively, and there can be deep roots on the soul level as well. Yeah, Dan is saying it, being in nature, linking in on Earth's abundance is helping me clearing. Yes, beautiful, absolutely. And saying history has been particularly unkind to women. We were persecuted from knowing about the healing powers of nature. Yes, we had to fight for the right to vote, to go into politics, and it's harder for women to be in business. Yes, That's all true. We need to make sure we let the world know we matter. Absolutely, starting with ourselves. And and the skill here is owning and reclaiming the power that we are, the powerful being that we are. So we're no longer buying into those old stories, and we can do that together as well, coming into communities where we're really supporting each other to create a new story. Okay, so that's all for this topic today. As I said, I'm going to be going deeper, creating resource around this. So do keep sharing your comments and your experience around this. That will really help me as I create my guide, and I'll let you know when that's ready. So thank you very much. Bye for now, and I will see you again soon.